Welcome to The Better Life with Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston. Join Dr. Pinkston today as she teaches you how an integrative approach to health, combining holistic and contemporary medical information, can lead you to the better life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston.
Good morning. I always say that, and people listen to this in the afternoon, right?
Right.
I am Dr. Mary Ann Pinkston, and I have the highest honor today of having Mrs. Karen Gallagher on radio with me. And
Thank you for having
and
me.
All. This is a wonderful moment for me, and I appreciate you so much.
I'm a big fan of yours,
Thank you.
and
Thank
I
you.
love that you focus on wellness. We're going to focus on veterans
We
today
are, and
first.
I was getting ready to say, at
Yeah.
your absolute request and my honor too, that this is Veterans Day, that we are recording this today. It won't air today, but it is Veterans Day. And so we are honoring veterans today.
Anyone who served in the military forces.
I don't care if you signed up and dropped out even. You are somebody who is making a huge choice in your life, and it's amazing. Downstairs, when we come in, we have the security guard downstairs.
Josh, I met him.
Josh.
I love him.
He is absolutely an amazing human being. Took a picture with him this morning. I'm going to have it on social media, so if you want to see who Josh is, but he's an amazing man, a veteran, and so we're honoring your father.
My dad was a colonel in intelligence, and we were in Moscow. We lived all over the world.
Now that is a life, I'm telling you.
It was, an interesting life. And then my husband's also a colonel and a doctor. So it's a sacrifice for the family, but it's a sacrifice that our country is so grateful for.
Absolutely.
But thank you for letting me start off with that, because I am really a grateful daughter and wife of veterans.
With absolute pleasure, no doubt. So, but we are going to talk about you today, because, and I've said it to probably 14 people now, that when I moved here 30 years ago and entered medical school, I used to sit and watch KSAT TV and, the news, and there's this Karen Gallagher, this beautiful, beautiful soul. You got a wonderful energy. And,
thank you.
You're just a giving, gracious, very, very honorable person. And, I never imagined 30 years later I would be sitting on a radio show somewhere on YouTube, talking to you and having you on. And so really it is a huge honor, and I appreciate you. And more than that, I appreciate your story. Mm-hmm. That is what really brought me, when I friended you on Facebook, I was like, this soul, this is just a beautiful person. Then I read your story, and that blew me out of the water.
It's a rough story, and I think mine isn't any worse than anyone else. Sure. Maybe it is more known because I did work in television.
Well, you had to do it on TV, though.
But I think God gives you a forum to say, maybe this is the message you need to bring out, is your TV work helped support your family, get them all through college and law school, that sort of thing with my daughter. But really with me, with breast cancer, which was back in 2009, before doctors really gave you a heads up about how addictive the pain medicine would be. And this was on the East Coast, where I had a slew of doctors. I was going through a divorce. I also had just had my father, Colonel Gallagher, diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. So I believe we can have a perfect storm of events. As strong as we feel that we are, can be brought to our knees. And I was brought to my knees, and I'm grateful for it, truly grateful, because the message I've been able to give in 6.5 years of sobriety is that it is the healthiest way to live, that alcohol and narcotic drug medications, even if they're prescribed, like for me, they were prescribed. Sure. They are addictive. They are deadly. They can become deadly. Absolutely. So it's a story where it included arrests. I don't have any type of permanent record or conviction of any kind, by the grace of God. But I can only say I'm grateful that happened. It probably wouldn't have happened in another city, because I hadn't even been on the air for 15 years when all that happened. But it took me a while to get to gratitude, but I am there because it's just, there's so many people, Mary Ann, that don't have the advantages of going to medical school or going and getting a master's degree in journalism, that are at Haven for Hope, that I work with at Pay It Forward, and next door at the San Antonio Christian Dental Clinic, where my husband volunteers. These are people that don't have the advantages, and so that's kind of where you said, what are you up to now? between my 7 grandchildren and service. That's really what I'm up to.
That is so beautiful. And I love what you say about life can bring you to your knees. And last week's show I was talking a bit about, suicide and suicide prevention, and was explaining to people that it doesn't matter what lot in life you are, where you are in the income range and education range, just like you just mentioned, that, sometimes life just happens and pushes you to a point where you are out of your ability to cope. It happens. People, I used to want to, smack anybody who said, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I'm like, oh, yes, he does.
Yes, he can.
But as you say, and as I've learned too, that there's an immense amount of gratitude in that, and it does take a while to get to that gratitude point. I don't think everybody does. Now, to turn to your point of the, self-medicating, and it happens to people again of all, lots in life and education and places. You could be sitting next to a president of something somewhere and a CEO, billionaire, and you don't know what that man is going through and what's happening to him. You may be able to hide it a little better and live very well, very high functioning.
But it's all a lie. It's a real lie. And
it's a smoke of,
if you look at the truth in yourself, and we all know our flaws and we all try to be the best person that we can be, but people say, why do you say such really embarrassing things on social media, you went through this? And it's because I want other people to know that those obstacles made me so much stronger
and better and wonderful and happier
and really more honest with myself, and then honest with the public.
Right.
And it's just a free way to live. It's liberating to be able to talk about that.
And to say that, because I have my own dirt behind me that, so to speak.
We all do. We all have baggage.
We all have baggage, every single one of us. And I watch sometimes, and this is part of the reason why I actually quit watching, TV. I haven't watched TV in over 4 years now. Yeah. And the reason I did that is because I would see somebody, dragged across the mud over their baggage. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're doing this poor person, what's behind you? This is not right. We have to elevate people, surround them, lift them, help them, no matter who they are in life. The people at the top, when they fall hard. And
especially women. I wanted to make a point because I felt a real connection with Dr. Pinkston, because you've been through some real health issues yourself that you are managing, and yet she's out there working out, lifting weights, doing cardio, all of which I am trying to do as well at 63. Pilates, yoga, those are things that, a lot of women in their 60s may think, oh, well, those were those days. And I don't need to worry about the poochy stomach or, my metabolism is shot. So just accept it.
Right.
Don't accept it.
Don't.
Because I think 60 is the new 40. I mean, I want to be a grandmother for 20, 25 more years.
Oh, longer, please.
To help with, I was working 3 shows a day, the 5, the 6, the 10 for decades and coming home at midnight. And it's hard. Yeah. It's a really hard
it is
life.
A hard existence.
And you know that because you're working full time and you have 3 kids.
Yes, I do.
So
single mom, all that. And so
it's hard to balance.
It is hard to balance. But, people make fun of me all the time. They're like, Marion, if you weren't running 90 miles an hour with your hair on fire, you wouldn't know who you were. You'd be so bored. Right. You'd look for something else to add on anyways. And it's true. But it's a zest. Mm-hmm. It's a love of life. It's a feeling of I can do anything I want. Mm-hmm. And even at 52, I look forward and I'm not going to succumb to it. And I tell my patients all the time, I have a lot of people who are my age or just a little bit older who look 30 years older, you know, and I just tell them this is the way I looked and felt, and you don't have to succumb to that. Age is a disease, and it's something.
I like that you said it that way.
It is, and it's something that we, succumb to if we allow it, like heart disease, like anything. And it's something you can also fight and can be done more easily than you think, but it's a complete state of mind.
Exactly.
And that's how you fight cancer. That's how you fight, narcotic addiction. That's
and the breast cancer of the 3, the Alzheimer's with my dad, the short-term addiction with the pain medicine, and then, the three things that I've gone through in this perfect storm, by far the worst was losing my father to Alzheimer's, because the ravages of that disease.
As a caretaker,
we don't have a cure. You just did a big fundraiser. I'm real proud of her for that. To watch your parent slowly stop remembering names and dates and children and grandchildren, it's like that was the most heartbreaking thing for me.
And being a caretaker. So what the gala was about was being, honoring caretakers, because as people die from that awful disease, they do disappear in a cloud of smoke. Their personality does, but their bodies are very much here, and they're changed. They're sometimes very difficult to deal with. They don't understand, and their grace by God is that they don't really understand and know that it's happening, and so they don't really suffer it so much. But the caretaker,
we carry
the caretaker,
we
you
carry it so deeply, and then
it.
the whole family turns into turmoil, because I have a sister who's an RN, and I have nieces and nephews, and it's one of those things that I think that they should almost do a course on how to manage a parent with Alzheimer's or a loved one.
Absolutely.
Because we all need to help in that situation. And do the best we can. But it's heartbreaking.
There are those. So Jacqueline Smith of the Jacqueline Smith Foundation, if you go to her, I don't want to, boost this on your show, but the eHearts, or the eHeartSADA.org, they do have some courses. There's a book called The 36-Hour Day.
Oh, wow.
It's a wonderful book. Amazon it. And it's 36, not spelled out 36, but 36-Hour Day is a wonderful book that helps as well. And then there's hospice.
Right.
So I plan to do some work on the show for hospice, because that's a very unique and beautiful thing. And so there are some resources out there. But like I say, even if you're in the medical field or, wherever, you disappear into that cloud of smoke with them. And it is very inundating. It takes over your world for a very long period of time sometimes. So, so you're right. And I can see how that would have been, the biggest, because you have to take care of somebody else while you're so sick. And, and deal with your own.
I have a friend in town now, and he's journaling it on Facebook, where he tells us what he's going through daily with his wife. And there are times when my father, who was a boxer at Notre Dame, became violent, and with male nurses, thank God. But it happens. And my husband's a big 6'3" guy, and we always wanted to take my dad to church every Sunday. And he remembered he was in the military, and he always remembered he was a Christian. So there were a few things that stuck with him. So I made sure that part of the routine of his day was there. But slowly at the very end,
you just couldn't.
It's just the most heartbreaking thing I've ever gone through. And again, cancer was, I'm not making light of it, but I knew I was going to beat that. I don't think I'll ever get over. In fact, this is the month 10 years ago that I've lost my father, and I'm still heartbroken.
Still affected by it. Oh, bless your heart. Well, I am so sorry you've had to go through all those things, but again, not sorry. I understand, and it's very valuable to your education about how how life can be, but what you can be because of it, and that's a huge, huge opportunity.
And I was going to mention to our children, I have a daughter here who's an attorney, and then a daughter that is a new mother in St. Louis.
Most precious child ever, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
This is my new boyfriend.
He's a doll. Amazing. He's really, really cute.
Really
and it is like the focus, because when you're as busy as you are now and you're in your early 50s, I look back on that, and this is the golden time. Wonderful. It really is, because I actually have time to do these great projects with him, and to think about phonics and learning to read and all of those things. And you do, as a working mother, you feel a lot of guilt that you can't be with your children. But I do believe that, and my children have said this, kids always know that their mom is working because it's for their future and for a better life for them, and so on. They pass it on to the next generation, hopefully. And so it's been a good thing.
Your reward comes when you have beautiful grandchildren that you can just do because it's fun, and not because you're worried about the grades and they have to. It's just because of fun, because I want to. And you do that with your children too, but still there's a very different thought. And so what a wonderful time. I'm looking forward to it. That's fantastic. fantastic. So
yeah, it's different. We're at different phases, but I was interested in being on the show just to say that your wellness perspective, I think, is really necessary. And we talked about, well, pain medication can be addictive, but what's the most addictive thing? I think is sugar.
Right.
It's, we're a city in San Antonio with a lot of diabetes.
Yes.
And we see so much devastation, diabetic retinopathy. You're a doctor, you see all of these things, people lose their limbs.
Yes.
Sugar really is.
It is.
I'm going to sound like a maniac, but it's deadly. And I wouldn't, if you look at alcohol, which I never really thought I was an alcoholic. I wasn't a heavy drinker, but when you are in sobriety, you don't touch alcohol either because you just have a clean slate.
Right. And you also have an addictive personality. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is very important. I have before in shows, but I think the more really redundant I am with it, the more people are going to understand. And so we're going to be taking a break shortly. I want to give people, since we're kind of midway here, I want to give you guys an idea about where to find. First of all, I'll say find me, but once you find me, you will have access to Karen here, and that is drpbetterlife.com. And I have all of the links on there for live streaming, in the future, or if you want to go through iTunes, YouTube, which you're watching now, hopefully, but drpbetterlife.com, you will find us there. And when we take a short break here, we'll come back. We'll talk about sugar and my addiction with sugar.
Everyone's addiction with sugar, and Christmas coming up, and holidays are around the corner.
So yes, we will do that. Thank you. Thank you and welcome back. If you were not present for the first half of this, you're going to have to go back and watch the YouTube and get the podcast, everything. So I'll say it again. It's drpbetterlife.com. Please go back because Karen Gallagher is here with me today. And we are, we ended the half there talking about sugar. And,
yes, we did.
Different addictions and different things, but
and we segued into COVID because it is topical, and I've had the third vaccination.
Yes.
But as a doctor, I wanted to ask you, since I'm a journalist, what is the correlation with obesity, with illness, with and mortality?
Right. Very, very, very closely linked. So if you look at the data for COVID, not just COVID deaths, but infection rates and the severity of it and the long hauler syndrome that, people are talking about now, it is very closely linked to obesity. So, and it's not just obesity, but it's inflammatory status. So if you have diabetes or, any of these issues, then you are a lot more susceptible to getting this disease and then suffering the long-term effects of it, also the SARS and death as well. So it's absolutely linked. And with you, bringing up sugar and the addiction potential, sugar really is a lot. I think people think that maybe smoking or heroin or cocaine are probably the most, or methamphetamine, not methamphetamines, but the crack, is probably the most addictive substances on earth. The area of the brain where you get the pleasure, sensation from doing these things is the same area that lights up with sugar. Mm-hmm. So it is as addictive. And the thing, I hate to take your time to do this, but I think the thing that people don't understand is that whenever you drink too much and you're hurting your body, or you get in a car and you hurt somebody else or something, you say, well, they're an alcoholic and, it's a disease. But nobody understands that when you are obese and not healthy and you're dying from this and you may be hurting somebody else because of it, because you do, that your addiction to sugar and eating, because you can't stop doing that and hurting yourself, is an addiction and a disease. It's the same thing.
And it's strange because when I talk about the pain medicine and breast cancer, I always segue into the people, you can even exercise too much, or
absolutely
there's sex addictions, there's gambling addictions, alcohol, there's so many things. But my own sister has probably an extra 100 pounds on her. Mm-hmm. And we were raised in the same house with a dad who was a boxer and a mother who I believe was, I'm going to say it, anorexic. Mm-hmm. She was very thin, and I told you she went through rheumatoid arthritis, something that you also are going through. And so we have to really look at like, what is causing all that? Like, are we eating, like, she went to 3 different high schools. We were military brats. We were in Russia and Okinawa and Hawaii and Germany. And she was born in England. It's hard to be a kid and just be moved all over the world.
Exactly, and not self-medicate somehow or something.
I give her a hall pass. I give some people the hall pass, but at the same time, eventually you have to just say, no, I can't do that anymore. I can't have the chocolate. I can't have the donuts. I can't have... Well, alcohol is full of sugar, so that was easy for me.
That is something I tell my patients all the time, because they're like, I want to do what you did, Dr. Pinkston. I'm like, I divorced food. I did, and I gave it up. And like, so with your sister, if her difficulty is eating, her addiction is eating, yours might have been, pain medication, and it might have been
my
eating
mother's was smoking too.
And smoking.
4-pack a day.
So there's
habit of smoking.
There's that, even though you're raised in different places or whatnot, but you still have that same potential for addiction. But I think we all do to some extent, and we all have our vices, but the majority of it is for sugar and food, but we don't recognize it as an addiction and as a sickness. And we have to. And that's what I had to do, because I was 300 pounds at one point. I had to recognize that and not just have my cheat weekend or my cheat this. It was like, no.
It was your life. You wanted the better life, which is the show's name.
There you go, right?
Really, literally.
I love it.
I do love it.
It is. And I had to cut, like you say, you can't indulge in alcohol if you have that potential, because you'll go whatever you choose or whatever's good to you.
Well, we know it. One cookie and,
one Shemaiah mom cookie.
One Shemaiah I was going to mention, because he's here in the studio today, and Deborah's a good friend of mine. It's just, you can during the holidays have a cookie here and there, but it's just having these platefuls and then just consuming it. So sometimes it's not a fun life to be into wellness, because what I do now that I'm retired is I start the day exercising. I get to Gold's Gym. I have Ann Westlakowski, who's my Pilates instructor. She makes sure that I'm sitting up, and they say, how do you walk across a room? Well, the way you walk across a room is the way that you walk through life. If you're standing tall and your posture is good, then you are exuding confidence.
Beautiful. I love that.
And she's helping me with I have 11 herniated discs, and I'm not going to get surgery. We had a guy hit us from behind. My husband was driving us and going 95. He was chasing another guy in the hospital, and the immediate thing is, we've got to do fusion. We're going to fuse your back. And I said, no, we're leaving.
Good for you. Wonderful.
And 3 years later, this month, November 18th was the day.
November is a very heavy month for you.
It is.
Bless
my father
and the holidays.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, you handle it with grace and dignity and beauty and just wonderful. And I just admire you so much. I am so pleased that you came on with me today. Thank you
delighted
so much.
to
I told you that 7 minutes was going to fly and it's gone. So I just want to remind everybody that they can reach me and find Karen and all her information, because I will post all of that on drpbetterlife.com. Thank you. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
It was my pleasure. Stay well.
I will. You too, everybody. Thank you.